I was right about to knock on my parents' door when I caught them telling my brother not to worry about the debt. We'll have your sister cover it. She never turns family down. I quietly turned back and transferred every penny out of my account. You know that gut-wrenching feeling when your entire world shifts? When something shatters so profoundly you can almost hear the pieces falling? That's what happened to me the day I overheard my parents planning to exploit me, to lie to me, all to cover my brother's secret, massive debt. I was about to share some exciting news, a big bonus, and instead, I walked into a cold, hard dose of reality. My name is Vanessa Williams, and for 32 years, I thought I knew my family. I was the responsible one. The nurse who worked insane hours during the pandemic, the daughter who never said no when family needed help. From the outside, we were the picture-perfect middle-class family in suburban Chicago. My dad, Harold, an accountant, my mom, Elaine, a third-grade teacher, always covered in glitter and kid stories. On paper, we were normal. But underneath that shiny surface, there was a pattern. A deep, insidious pattern that had been there since childhood. My brother Alexander, who's 4 years younger, and I. We were treated completely differently. For years I just told myself I was imagining it. Where I was practical, studious, a rule follower, Alexander was charming, adventurous, and broke every rule with a smile that somehow always earned him forgiveness, never punishment. They called him their free spirit. Me? I was the responsible one. Sounds complimentary, right? But it was a burden, a heavy, unspoken expectation that I would always be the reliable one, the one who cleaned up messes. High school was just more of the same. I worked my butt off. Straight A's, volleyball, weekend jobs at a pharmacy to save for college. When I turned 16, my parents chipped in $2,000 for a used Toyota, a clunker with over 100,000 miles. But only after I'd saved $3,000 myself. And I was grateful. That car was freedom, a reward for my hard work. But then Alexander turned 16, 4 years later. And my parents, without a word about savings or responsibility, surprised him with a brand new Honda Civic. Just like that. When I dared to bring it up, to question the glaring difference, my mom just brushed me off. Oh, Vanessa, you were always so independent. Alexander just needs a little more support. More support? The word stung. College? Same story. I earned partial scholarships, worked 30 hours a week, and maintained a 3.8 GPA in nursing school. I graduated with $12,000 in student loans, and I paid every cent back within 5 years. Alexander? He bounced between expensive private universities, changed majors 3 times, and finally just dropped out after 2.5 years. My parents? They footed the entire tuition bill, never asking him for a dime back, even when he completely wasted their investment. It was infuriating, but I just accepted it. It was Alexander. My career, though? That stayed steady. I worked my way up at Chicago Memorial Hospital, from staff nurse to charge nurse, and finally to nurse manager. I took extra shifts, volunteered for the worst assignments, built a reputation for excellence. Then the pandemic hit. I pulled 60-hour weeks, putting myself at risk, watching colleagues get sick. It was brutal. But the hospital saw my dedication, and it paid off, a promotion, and that $15,000 bonus I'd just received. Alexander's career, if you could even call it that, was a parade of failed entrepreneurial ventures. A custom t-shirt business that folded in 4 months. A food delivery app he abandoned. Most recently, some import business, dealing in luxury items, which he was always incredibly vague about. Every single spectacular failure? Cushioned by my parents' money, of course. Always explained away as bad timing, or learning experiences. Meanwhile, I was actually learning and earning. And through it all, despite seeing the favoritism, I desperately tried to maintain a close relationship with them. Sunday dinners were sacred. I called my mom multiple times a week. I bought thoughtful gifts. Family meant everything to me. I was willing to overlook the painful inequities, just to keep those bonds intact. By 32, I'd finally built something of my own. A modest 2-bedroom condo in a good neighborhood. A healthy savings account, thanks to living below my means and careful planning. I drove the same reliable car for 10 years. My life wasn't flashy, no, but it was secure. It was mine. I'd earned it through years of sheer discipline and hard work. Looking back, the warning signs about Alexander's finances were everywhere in recent months. Hushed phone calls that would abruptly end when I walked in. My mom borrowing $2,000 for a home repair I never saw any evidence of. My dad casually asking about my salary, my savings. I ignored every single red flag. I desperately wanted to believe my family wouldn't deliberately take advantage of me. That belief, that fundamental trust, was about to be obliterated. The day everything exploded, ironically, started perfectly normally. It was Tuesday, April 15th, tax day, of all days. I just finished an exhausting 12-hour shift at the hospital. My feet were throbbing, but my spirits? They were soaring. That morning, in our staff meeting, the administrator had announced special bonuses for leadership staff who'd gone above and beyond during the latest COVID surge. When she called my name and handed me a check for $15,000, I nearly burst into tears right there. 3 grueling years of pandemic nursing, and finally, someone was acknowledging the toll it had taken on us. My first thought wasn't about buying something for myself. It was about sharing the news with my family. Yes, even with all our complicated dynamics, their approval still mattered to me. I imagined their proud faces, maybe a spontaneous celebration dinner. I even considered offering to help my mom with that kitchen renovation she'd been talking about for years. That was me. Always thinking about how to share my good fortune. So, around 5:30, I pulled up to their colonial-style home. I let myself in with the spare key, just like I'd done hundreds of times. "Mom? Dad? Anyone home?" I called out. No answer. But their cars were in the driveway. I figured they must be in the backyard garden. I decided to check upstairs first. As I got closer to their bedroom door at the end of the hall, I heard voices. Strained, hushed voices. I was just about to knock when Alexander's distinct voice, that slightly whiny undertone, cut through the silence. My heart stopped. $75,000, Dad? Alexander whined. I know it's a lot, but this time it's different. My hand froze. $75,000? I hadn't even known he was here. My feet rooted themselves to the floor. Then my dad, Harold, his voice rising in disbelief. Alexander James Wilson! That's more than I make in a year! How could you possibly be in that much debt again? Alexander's tone was so flippant, it made me sick. The supplier raised his prices after I'd already committed. It's not my fault! And now these guys are serious about collecting. They've given me 30 days. My mom, Elaine, her voice tight with worry, asked, What kind of suppliers are these? Alexander, are you in some kind of trouble? No, Mom, it's just business, he said, dismissing her. But I need help fast. My father's voice, defeated. No. We don't have that kind of money. We remortgaged the house to cover your last venture, and we're still paying off the loan for the one before that. My stomach clenched. Remortgage the house? They'd never, not once, mentioned any financial troubles to me. Then my mom chimed in. What about that investment opportunity in Florida? The timeshare presentation said we could make our money back in 3 years. I bit my lips so hard to keep from groaning aloud. My parents, despite my dad being an accountant, were terrible with money. They fell for every single get-rich-quick scheme out there. Alexander cut them off. That would take too long. I need the cash now. What about Vanessa? She must have savings. The mention of my name. It made me press closer to the door, my heart pounding. Your sister works hard for her money. My dad started, and for a fleeting second, a surge of gratitude, a flicker of hope, washed over me. He was going to defend me. But then he continued. But yes, she's always been responsible. And she just got promoted. She probably has at least 50,000 saved by now. My mom added. And didn't she mention something about a bonus coming up? That gratitude curdled. It turned to ice in my veins. They were talking about my money they had no right to, as if it were a family resource. Something they could just claim. So, Alexander said, his voice bright with greedy relief, we'll just ask her to loan it to me. Problem solved. My dad, ever the strategist, sounded a little hesitant. She might hesitate at such a large amount. She's been asking more questions lately about those other loans. Then my mother's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, a tone I'd never heard from her. Don't worry about that. Vanessa has always been a pushover when it comes to family. We'll just tell her it's for Alexander's medical bills or something. She's a nurse, she'll understand healthcare costs. Alexander, ever the opportunist, piped up. Or we could tell her it's for a business opportunity she could invest in. She's always going on about retirement planning. A wave of pure, chilling dread washed over me. I stood there, rooted, listening to my own family plot to lie to me, to manipulate me. However we approach it, my father said firmly. Don't worry about the debt, Alexander. We'll make your sister pay. She'll never say no to family. And then they laughed. All three of them. That sound hit me like physical blows. Alexander snickered. Good old responsible Vanessa. Always there to clean up my messes. My mother added. She does love to feel needed. We'll just appeal to her nurturing side. And my father, the final twist of the knife. And if she hesitates, I'll remind her of all we did for her growing up. Guilt always works with Vanessa. Their words. They confirmed every dark suspicion I'd ever had but desperately tried to ignore. My reliability wasn't respected, it was exploited. They didn't see me as the successful, independent woman I'd worked so hard to become. No. They saw me as an ATM. An ATM with a convenient, easy-to-trigger guilt button. My vision blurred. A wave of gut-wrenching nausea hit me so hard I had to press my hand against the wall just to stay upright. My heart pounded in my ears, a frantic drumbeat drowning out their continued plotting. The entire hallway seemed to spin. 32 years of family memories, of moments I cherished, instantly reorganized themselves into a horrifying pattern of manipulation and favoritism I could no longer deny. Thank you. We're so proud. Felt like a lie. Every act of kindness, a calculated investment. I backed away from that door, silently, slowly, my plush hallway carpet mercifully muffling my footsteps. I couldn't confront them. Not now. Not when I felt so utterly shattered. I needed space. To breathe. To process this seismic betrayal. I crept down the stairs, out the front door, closing it with the gentlest, quietest click. By the time I reached my car, parked a little way down the street, a strange calm began to replace the initial shock. And then, a fierce, cold determination started to burn through the hurt. They thought they knew me. Predictable, reliable Vanessa. The one who always said yes. They had no idea what I was capable of when pushed this far. The 20-minute drive home passed in a blur. I don't remember traffic lights or turns. My mind just replayed those agonizing fragments of conversation like a broken record. She'll never say no to family. Good old responsible Vanessa. Guilt always works with Vanessa. When I finally pulled into my condo garage, I just sat there, motionless, behind the wheel, trying to steady my breathing. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Are you coming for dinner Sunday? Making your favorite lasagna. The casual normalcy of it, knowing what I now knew, made me laugh. A bitter, hollow laugh. My fingers hovered over the screen, itching to type out every ounce of my rage. But I stopped myself. Strategic thinking, not emotional reaction, would guide me now. I replied with a simple lie. Got called back to the hospital for an emergency. We'll call tomorrow. Then I turned off all notifications and walked into my apartment. The space I'd always found so comforting, with its soft blue walls and carefully chosen furniture, now felt like the only safe place in my world. I kicked off my shoes and sank onto the couch, finally letting the tears come. But these weren't just tears of hurt. They burned. With anger. Raw, pure anger. As the initial shock bled into that burning anger, my analytical, nurse's mind kicked in. I started mentally cataloging every single time I'd helped my family financially. The $5,000 for my parents' 30th anniversary trip to Hawaii? A loan that was never repaid. Alexander's $3,000 car repairs after an accident, which I later found out was because he was driving drunk. Then there was the $7,000 for a roof replacement for my parents, which mysteriously covered the exact amount of Alexander's outstanding tuition bill from his second failed attempt at college. I grabbed my laptop and opened a spreadsheet. Methodically, I started documenting every dollar I could remember giving them over the past decade. The total? It made me physically ill. $48,600. Nearly $50,000. $50,000 I would never see again, all while I worked extra shifts and lived frugally, denying myself so they could have more. The pattern, once laid out in rows and columns, was undeniable. Every request had been cloaked in crisis language. Every time, I'd been praised for being such a help, promised repayment. And every single time, repayment was conveniently forgotten. If I even dared to bring it up, I was instantly made to feel petty. Family helps family, my mom would say. When you need something someday, we'll be there for you. But I understood the truth now. The support only ever flowed one way, toward Alexander. And my parents were his willing enablers. I reached for my phone, my hand shaking, and called the one person I trusted completely. Jessica, can you talk? Something happened. Jessica Andrews, my best friend since nursing school. Unlike me, she came from a family that respected boundaries, celebrated independence. She'd questioned my family's treatment of me so many times over the years, but I'd always defended them. What's wrong, Van? You sound terrible. Her concern, even through the phone, was a lifeline. For the next hour, I poured out everything. The overheard conversation, the sickening manipulation, the entire history of financial exploitation. Jessica listened, silently, only occasionally making sounds of pure outrage. I hate to say I told you so, she finally said when I finished, her voice gentle. But I've been watching them take advantage of you for years. Remember when your car broke down last winter, and you asked if they could help with the tow? Your dad said they were a little tight right then. That was the same week they bought Alexander that expensive leather jacket for Christmas. I winced. She was right. I'd forgotten that. I made excuses for them, I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. I thought if I was useful enough, helpful enough, they'd value me the way they value him. Jessica's voice was firm, yet compassionate. Honey, they value what you can give them, not who you are. And it's not your fault. You've been conditioned since childhood to be the responsible one, the caretaker. They exploit your good heart. Her words hit me with painful, undeniable accuracy. My entire life, I'd been trying to earn the same unconditional love they gave Alexander freely. What do I do now? I asked, feeling lost. First, Jessica said without hesitation, you protect yourself. Move your money. All of it. Somewhere they can't access it. Create documentation for all those past loans. And for God's sake, Vanessa, don't give them another penny. After hanging up with Jessica, sleep was impossible. I spent hours reviewing bank statements, digging up every scrap of evidence for those past loans. Every family memory replayed, but now, with a horrifying new context. My mom praising me for being so mature about money, all while setting me up as the family bankroll. My dad proudly telling his friends about my career, while calculating my earning potential for Alexander's benefit. By morning, exhaustion had hardened into a steely resolve. I took a shower, dressed in my sharpest, most professional outfit. The nurse who had managed a critical care unit during a pandemic wasn't going to be manipulated by her own family. Not anymore. The moment Valley Credit Union opened at 9 a.m., I was there. I strode in, confident, competent. I need to speak with a personal banker immediately, I told the receptionist, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. It's about account security. Minutes later, I was across from Stephanie Miller, a financial advisor whose shrewd eyes assessed me carefully. I need to secure my finances from potential unauthorized access, I explained. I want to open new accounts that no one in my family can access, and transfer all my funds immediately. Stephanie, bless her, didn't bat an eye at my urgency. She efficiently walked me through setting up new, highly secure accounts, ones my parents couldn't possibly guess the passwords to or charm their way into. I also removed my mother as an authorized user on my credit card, a card I'd given her years ago for emergencies, only for her to routinely push my credit limit. That tiny card-shaped imprint in my wallet, a ghost of her presence, finally disappeared. My next stop was Diana Patel, a financial advisor Jessica had recommended. Diana's office was warm, professional. Jessica said you needed urgent financial guidance, she said, her voice kind. I took a deep breath and laid it all out. Unfortunately, this isn't uncommon, Diana said without judgment. Family financial exploitation happens more often than people realize. Let's create a comprehensive plan to protect your assets. For the next 3 hours, Diana helped me meticulously document every single loan I'd ever given, with dates, amounts, and any evidence I had. We talked about promissory notes, and how, without them, my past help would likely be seen as gifts. Moving forward, she advised, if you ever decide to help family again, we'll create proper documentation. But based on what you've told me, I strongly advise against any further financial assistance. She also helped me draft a financial boundary document, a clear statement of what I would and would not do with my money when it came to family. It wasn't legally binding, but the act of writing it down? It solidified my resolve. 1. I will not provide loans or gifts above $100 to family members. 2. Any financial assistance must be documented with repayment terms. 3. I will not co-sign loans or provide access to my credit. 4. I will not discuss specific details of my income, savings, or financial planning with family. 5. I reserve the right to say no to any financial request without explanation. Reading those simple statements, I felt a literal weight lift from my shoulders. For years, I'd operated under unspoken rules that entitled them to my resources. Now, I was creating my own rules. My phone had been buzzing all day, 5 missed calls from my mom, 2 from my dad, a text from Alexander asking if I was coming to Sunday dinner because he had big news. The transparency of their setup made me both sad and furiously angry. That evening, I had a virtual appointment with Dr. Carter, my therapist. Usually, we focused on work stress, but today, everything just poured out. What you're describing, Dr. Carter explained, is a family system that's designated you as the responsible one, the rescuer. These roles get established early and are incredibly difficult to change because everyone in the system resists it. So they'll fight me on this, I said, stating the obvious. Almost certainly, she confirmed. Expect guilt trips, anger, accusations that you're being selfish or that you've changed. They might even suggest you're having a mental health crisis. This is all predictable when someone changes the dynamics of a dysfunctional system. Dr. Carter then helped me rehearse responses to their likely manipulation tactics. For guilt, I understand you're disappointed, but I need to make financial decisions that align with my goals. For anger, I can see you're upset. We can continue this conversation when everyone is calmer. For accusations, I'm making decisions that are right for me. I don't need to justify them. By the end of our session, I felt mentally prepared for Sunday dinner. I wasn't going to cancel. I wanted to go. I needed to see if they would actually execute the plan I'd overheard. I wanted to observe their manipulation tactics with my new awareness. Remember, Dr. Carter said before we ended the call, changing patterns takes time and consistency. There will be moments when your resolve weakens. That's normal. Just return to your boundaries. I spent Saturday actively strengthening my support system. I called friends I'd neglected because I was always too busy prioritizing family. I cleaned my apartment, worked out, anything to focus my mind. The raw anger had finally settled into a cool, almost surgical determination. I wasn't going to explode at them. That would just play into their narrative that I was irrational. No. I would be calm, clear, and absolutely unmanipulable. Sunday arrived with a knot of tension in my stomach, but a crystal clear resolve in my mind. As I drove to their house, I repeated the truth to myself like a mantra. I was not responsible for Alexander's debts. I was not obligated to sacrifice my financial security for someone who would never, ever do the same for me. And saying no? That didn't make me a bad daughter or sister. It made me a healthy adult with appropriate boundaries. I pulled up to their house at 5 p.m. sharp, the same time I'd arrived for countless Sunday dinners before. But everything felt different. The familiar blue house, its neat garden, now looked like a stage set. A carefully constructed facade hiding decades of manipulation. I noticed details I'd overlooked before. The new patio furniture that must have cost thousands. The recently installed landscaped lighting. My mother's new diamond earrings, glinting as she opened the door. None of these purchases aligned with their claims of financial struggle when they needed my money. My mother enveloped me in a hug that lasted too long, her perfume cloying. "Vanessa! We missed you the other day. Hospital emergencies are so unpredictable, aren't they?" Her tone, that perfect blend of sympathy and admiration, was a manipulation tactic I now recognized. She was setting me up, establishing my identity as the hardworking, self-sacrificing daughter, priming me for the financial ask. "Nature of the job," I replied neutrally, handing her the mid-range wine I'd brought, a small, active boundary, instead of the expensive bottle I usually used to try and impress them. My father emerged, reading glasses perched on his nose. "Ah, our medical professional! How's hospital life treating you?" He gave me a brief hug, then, with calculated casualness, added, "Any exciting career news lately?" His fishing for information about my bonus was so transparent now. "Nothing special," I lied smoothly. "Same challenges, different day." The flicker of disappointment in his eyes told me everything. "Is Alexander here yet?" I asked, moving toward the living room. "He's running a bit late," my mother replied. "You know your brother, always so many irons in the fire." I just nodded, thinking about the irons that had created his $75,000 debt. I offered to help in the kitchen, falling into my usual role, but observing everything with new, sharp eyes. And the kitchen? It screamed financial disconnect. A brand new stand mixer, its price tag still partially visible. $399. Premium ingredients everywhere, imported olive oil, specialty cheeses. My parents had always lived slightly beyond their means, but now I wondered how much of that lifestyle had been subsidized by my money. Alexander arrived 45 minutes late, of course. He breezed in, exuding the confidence of someone who knows they'll be forgiven anything. "Traffic was insane," he announced, no apology. Designer jeans, a casual blazer that probably cost more than my entire outfit. And on his wrist? A Tag Heuer watch, easily $4,000. So much for his desperate debt situation. He gave me a performative one-armed hug. "How's my big sister, the healthcare hero?" The slight emphasis on big was a jab. I was 4 years older, and carried about 20 pounds more than his gym-sculpted frame. "I'm well," I replied, studying him. "Nice watch." A flash of guilt, annoyance, crossed his face before his charm reasserted itself. "This old thing? Had it for ages." Another lie. I knew a doctor with the same watch. It had only been released 3 months ago. Dinner progressed, a thick current of tension humming beneath the surface, a tension I'd never noticed before. My mother served her signature lasagna, my favorite, as promised. She peppered the conversation with comments about family loyalty and support. "That's what makes the Williams special," she said, refilling wine glasses. We always come through for each other, no matter what. My father, with practiced subtlety, steered the conversation towards finances. The hospital must be doing well, despite everything. I read healthcare salaries are at an all-time high, especially for management positions. I took a small bite of lasagna, the food I once loved now tasteless. Some organizations are doing better than others. Mine has had budget cuts. I lied smoothly. Then Alexander jumped in, initiating the play. Speaking of finances, I've been exploring an amazing investment opportunity. His eyes gleamed with practiced enthusiasm. It's in cryptocurrency, a special pre-launch offering only available to selected investors. I nodded, waiting for the pitch. The minimum buy-in is $50,000, he continued. But the projected returns are incredible. 3 to 5 times investment within 6 months. Sounds too good to be true, I remarked mildly. That's what I thought, my mother exclaimed. But Alexander has done his research. He showed your father and me all the projections. My father cleared his throat. We were thinking of creating a family investment pool, he said, combining resources to take advantage of this opportunity. And there it was. The ask, wrapped in the guise of benefiting everyone, but really, just bailing out Alexander. Tell me more about this investment, I said, slowly setting down my fork. Who's the company? What's their track record? Alexander's confidence faltered, just a touch. It's a private offering, very exclusive. The company is called FutureCoin Technologies. And their history? How long have they been in business? They're new, but the founders came from established firms, he said vaguely. Which firms? I'd have to check my notes for the specific names, he stammered. I just nodded, taking a sip of water. Then I delivered the line I'd been rehearsing. And the $75,000 debt you need to pay off? Is that related to this investment? The silence that descended over the dining room was absolute. My mother's fork clattered against her plate. My father's face drained of all color. Alexander's expression shifted from pure shock to ugly, volcanic rage. How did you? He began, his voice hoarse. I heard everything, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. Tuesday afternoon, I came by to share some good news. I was outside your bedroom door when you were discussing how to manipulate me into paying Alexander's debts. My mother recovered first, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. Vanessa, you misunderstood what you heard. I didn't misunderstand anything. I interrupted, my voice steady. Dad said, and I quote, "Don't worry about the debt, Alexander. We'll make your sister pay. She'll never say no to family." Then you all laughed about how I'm such a responsible pushover. You were eavesdropping on a private conversation, my father blustered, trying to shift the blame. I was about to knock when I heard you planning to lie to me, I corrected him. Mom suggested telling me it was for medical bills. Alexander thought framing it as an investment opportunity would appeal to me more. Like the one you just invented now, I said, turning to my brother. Alexander's handsome face contorted with a truly ugly rage. You always think you're so much better than me, don't you? Perfect Vanessa, with her nursing career and her responsible lifestyle. I don't think I'm better than you, I replied, my voice steady. I just refuse to be your personal bailout fund anymore. My mother, ever the actress, cried. After everything we've done for you. Tears sprang to her eyes on cue. The performance was impressive, but for the first time, it was utterly ineffective. What exactly have you done for me? I asked quietly. I worked through school. I paid my own way. I bought my own car and home. Meanwhile, you've given Alexander everything while taking from me. My father tried to minimize. You're blowing this out of proportion. It was just a conversation, not a conspiracy. Families don't plot to exploit each other. I countered. And this isn't just about Tuesday. I've calculated how much money I've loaned this family over the past 10 years. Nearly $50,000 that was never repaid. Alexander snorted. That's what family does. No, I said firmly. That's what enablers and users do. And I'm done with both roles. I stood up, surprising myself with how calm I felt. I've moved my money where you can't access it. I've documented every loan none of you have repaid. And I'm establishing clear boundaries going forward. My mother, her voice dripping with accusation, demanded, You would abandon your family over money? Her manipulation had shifted to its final form, questioning my moral character. This isn't about money, I said, looking her straight in the eye. It's about respect and honesty. Neither of which you've shown me. You were willing to lie to my face and laugh behind my back. That's not family. So that's it, Alexander sneered. You're just walking away? I'm walking away from being exploited, I clarified. If you want a relationship with me going forward, it will be built on mutual respect, not what I can give you. My father stood, his face flushed with anger. You're being ridiculous and ungrateful. After all we've sacrificed for you. Name one sacrifice, I challenged him. One thing you've done for me that you didn't do twice over for Alexander. His mouth opened and closed, but no examples came. I picked up my purse and walked toward the door, turning back one last time. I love you all. That hasn't changed. But love without boundaries isn't love. It's exploitation. When you're ready to have an honest relationship, I'll be here. Until then, I'm taking care of myself. I walked out, closing the door gently behind me. In my car, I took a deep breath. A wave of lightness washed over me. For the first time in my adult life, I had stood up for myself against the people who had trained me to put their needs first. It hurt, yes, a deep, aching pain. But beneath it, something new and precious had begun to bloom, self-respect. The barrage began before I even reached home. My phone exploded. Texts from my mother, alternating between tearful guilt trips. I can't believe you would hurt us like this. And attempts to minimize. You completely misunderstood everything. My father's approach was more direct, stern voicemails in his accountant voice, explaining how family financial support was normal, and I was overreacting to standard family dynamics. Alexander's messages wildly vacillated between threatening, "You'll regret turning your back on family," and pathetic apologies. "I'm sorry if you felt that way, but I really do need help." The transparency of their manipulation was almost laughable now that I could recognize it for what it was. I didn't respond. Instead, I poured a glass of wine, ran a bath, and let myself feel the complex emotions washing through me: grief for the family relationship I thought I had, anger at years of exploitation, and underneath it all, a growing sense of liberation. By Monday morning, their communication strategy had escalated. My mother had called my cousin, my aunt, even my elderly grandmother, enlisting them in her pressure campaign. My Aunt Maria called as I was getting ready for work. "Vanessa, your mother is absolutely distraught," she began, no preamble. "She says you had some kind of breakdown at dinner and accused the family of terrible things." I took a deep breath, remembering Dr. Carter's advice: stay calm. "That's not what happened, Aunt Maria. I overheard them planning to manipulate me into paying Alexander's debts. When I confronted them, they didn't deny it." "Well, I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding," she said dismissively. "Your mother said they were just discussing family finances and you took it personally. Did she mention that Alexander needs $75,000, or that they were laughing about how I'd never say no to family?" Aunt Maria paused. "$75,000? That can't be right." "It is. And it's not the first time they've used me as Alexander's personal bailout fund." Another long pause. "Look, I know Alexander has had his struggles. But your parents would never intentionally take advantage of you. They love you. I believe they love me, in their way," I acknowledged. "But they've been using me financially for years. I'm simply setting boundaries now." "Boundaries?" she repeated, as if the word were foreign. "Vanessa, there are no boundaries in family. Family is about being there for each other no matter what. Even when it's one-sided?" Even when it involves lies and manipulation? My aunt sighed heavily. You've always been so independent, so different from the rest of us. Maybe that's why you don't understand how families work. Her words meant to make me feel like an outsider, like I was the problem? A week ago, they might have worked. Today, they simply confirmed I was making the right decision. I understand exactly how our family works, I said gently. That's why I'm changing my role in it. Throughout the week, even more troubling information came to light. My cousin Diana, who worked at my parents' bank, called me privately. I shouldn't be telling you this, she whispered, but after what you told Aunt Maria, I thought you should know. Your parents took out a second mortgage 3 months ago. The amount? Exactly $75,000. The pieces clicked into place. They'd already paid Alexander's debt. Looks that way, Diana confirmed. And from what I can see, they're struggling to make the payments. Your dad's retirement account shows multiple withdrawals, too. The revelation should have made me furious. But instead, I felt a profound sadness. My parents had risked their entire retirement security for Alexander, again. And they had planned to recoup the money from me, rather than holding him accountable. Through careful conversations with other family members, I pieced together the full truth. Alexander's import business was a complete cover story. He'd accumulated massive gambling debts to some truly dangerous people in Atlantic City. The investment opportunity was entirely fictional. Just a story designed to extract money from me. The pressure intensified. My father actually called my supervisor at the hospital, claiming concern about my mental health, my unusual behavior. A blatant attempt to undermine my credibility. Fortunately, my professional reputation was solid, and the attempt backfired. My supervisor, a kind woman, mentioned it to me sympathetically. Family estrangement is more common than people realize, she told me during our weekly meeting. My brother and I didn't speak for 5 years until he got treatment for his addiction. Sometimes distance is the healthiest choice. Her support was a powerful reminder that I wasn't alone. At Jessica's suggestion, I also joined an online support group for adults dealing with financially exploitative families. The stories there mirrored mine with eerie similarity. My parents remortgaged their house 3 times to bail out my brother, one woman wrote. When they ran out of equity, they turned to me. When I refused, they told the entire extended family I was abandoning them. These stories strengthened my resolve as I endured their increasingly desperate tactics. Alexander even showed up at my workplace, creating a scene in the lobby until security escorted him out. My mother left tear-filled voicemails describing how she couldn't sleep or eat because of my cruelty. My father alternated between stern lectures about family obligation and thinly veiled threats about being written out of their will. 10 days after the confrontation, I received their ultimatum in a group text. Vanessa, we've given you time to reconsider your irrational position. Alexander's situation is critical. As family, you have a responsibility to help. If you choose not to contribute to resolving this family crisis, we will have to reconsider your place in this family. The choice is yours. I read that message multiple times, and a strange, profound calm settled over me. This was it. Their final, most powerful manipulation, threatening complete rejection unless I complied. In the past, this implicit threat had always loomed, making me anxious to please them at any cost. Now I recognized it for what it was, emotional blackmail. I composed my response carefully. I love you all and hope for healing in our relationship. However, I will not be providing financial assistance. I respect your right to make your own choices about our relationship going forward. Within minutes, my phone exploded with angry messages, but I didn't read them. Instead, I blocked their numbers temporarily, giving myself space to continue healing without constant emotional assault. The choice they had presented, compliance or rejection, was a false dichotomy. I was choosing a third option, healthy boundaries and self-respect. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. No longer torn between family loyalty and self-preservation. The path forward would be difficult, yes, but it was clear. And in that clarity, I found an unexpected, powerful freedom. 6 months. 6 months can change absolutely everything. As the autumn leaves turned Chicago into a canvas of orange and gold, I sat on my balcony, a cup of hot chocolate warming my hands, reflecting on how much had shifted since that raw April evening when I overheard my family's betrayal. The most striking change? The silence. After 3 months of emotional siege, the calls, the texts, the enlisted relatives, even a tear-filled ambush at my favorite grocery store, my family had finally, accepted that their usual tactics wouldn't work. The constant communication dwindled to occasional formal messages, a birthday card from my mother with no personal note, a group email about Thanksgiving plans I wasn't specifically invited to attend. The silence hurt at first. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, mourning the family connection I had valued so deeply, mourning the family I thought I had. But gradually, that silence created space. Space for healing. Space for growth. Without the constant drain of their emotional and financial demands, I found energy for other relationships, other pursuits. My condo, once just a place to crash between hospital shifts and family obligations, became a true sanctuary. I repainted the living room a warm terracotta, hung art that spoke to me, not my mother's taste, and adopted a rescue cat named Luna, who greets me with purring affection every time I walk through the door. Professionally, I thrived without that undercurrent of family stress. 3 months after the confrontation, I was promoted to Director of Nursing for the entire Critical Care Division. A substantial salary increase, greater influence over patient care protocols. The achievement felt purely mine, something I didn't need to downplay around Alexander or leverage for my parents' approval. Then, in early October, came the most surprising development. My father suffered a minor heart attack. I learned about it through my cousin Diana, not directly from my parents. After a moment of hesitation, I went to the hospital. Not out of obligation, no. But out of genuine compassion. My father looked smaller, somehow, in that hospital bed. Vulnerable in a way I'd never seen him. When I entered his room, his eyes widened with genuine surprise. "Vanessa," he rasped. "You came?" I just nodded, taking the chair beside his bed. "How are you feeling?" "Like an elephant is sitting on my chest," he admitted. "But they say I was lucky. No major damage." We sat in an awkward silence for several minutes before he spoke again, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "The doctor who treated me said stress was a contributing factor." He paused, staring at the ceiling. "Financial stress." I waited, not offering the automatic reassurance I would have given in the past. "Alexander's debts," he continued. "They were worse than we told you. The $75,000 was just the beginning. There was another $100,000 we didn't mention." The amount shocked me, truly, but I kept my expression neutral. "I'm sorry to hear that. We had to sell the vacation property in Michigan," he said, his voice cracking. "The one we were going to retire to. And your mother's parents' antiques, still not enough." "What happened with Alexander?" I asked. My father's face seemed to age another decade. "He disappeared. Left town about a month ago. Said he had another opportunity in California." "And his debts?" "He left them for us." For the first time in my life, I saw my father's eyes fill with tears. "You were right, Vanessa. We enabled him. We failed him by never setting limits. And we failed you by expecting you to clean up our mess." The apology, however incomplete, was more than I had ever expected. It didn't erase the hurt, or fully acknowledge the lifetime pattern of exploitation, but it was a start. "I can't fix this financially," I said gently. "Even if I wanted to, it wouldn't help Alexander in the long run." "I know," my father said, surprising me. "That's not why I'm telling you this. I want you to know that I see it now. What we did. How unfair it was." My mother, predictably, never reached the same level of insight. When she arrived at the hospital and found me there, her response cycled between tearful gratitude for my presence and subtle hints about their financial situation. A lifetime pattern of manipulation couldn't be broken in a single day. But I maintained my boundaries with calm, consistent clarity. "I'm here for emotional support," I told her clearly, "not financial assistance." Over the following months, I established careful, limited contact with my parents. Sunday dinners were replaced by occasional lunch meetings in public places, with clear time boundaries. I deflected personal financial questions and changed the subject whenever Alexander's name came up, which was frequently. Meanwhile, my own support network flourished. Jessica remained my steadfast ally, celebrating every boundary and every small step of progress. My therapy sessions with Dr. Carter continued, now focusing on rebuilding my identity, separate from my old role as family caretaker. I formed deeper connections with colleagues, reconnected with old friends I'd neglected while prioritizing my family's demands. And the most unexpected connection? It came through that online support group for family financial exploitation. There, I met others who understood exactly what I'd experienced. Together, we formed a local in-person group that met monthly for coffee and conversation. These strangers, now friends, provided validation and perspective that my biological family never could. In a moment of inspiration, I worked with 2 group members to create a workshop for the hospital's community education program. Financial Boundaries and Family Dynamics. The very first session filled to capacity, revealing just how many people struggled with similar issues, but had never found